Welcome to Minutes with Mango, Life in Motion. I'm your host, Johnny Mango. This is the place where we inquire about lifestyle, culture, and careers. Weekly, we meet with new guests that make a contribution of their insightful stories about their careers and how those careers impact their lifestyle and culture. Hello, everybody. This is Johnny, and welcome to Minutes with Mango. Our last few podcasts have been focused on various elements of spirituality, and today's guest, I think, ties spirituality to a more practical life lessons, and especially in leadership. He's a visionary leader and the founder of Unlimited Health Collective and Uni Intelligence. Once a power engineer, he left the corporate world to become a monk in Thailand and traveling across 30-plus countries to immerse himself in consciousness, systems transformation, and global healing. And today he bridges spiritual intelligence with leadership innovation, integrating ancient wisdom with cutting-edge tech. His work activates individuals, teams, and companies in their next evolution. I'd like to introduce you to Logan Muir. Welcome, Logan.
Johnny, thank you so much for having me today. It's a big pleasure.
Well, Logan, you definitely have a story to tell. I can see that, but why don't you just take a few minutes and tell us about your background, how you got to where you are, and then we'll dig into some deeper issues.
Beautiful. I'd love to. Yeah, so I started out, like many people, lived a very, normal life, so I thought, looking back at it. But I played I had an interesting background with family, had some very interesting things looking back on it that shaped me into who I was. I became a power engineer because, I followed the path that, this is success and this is what you want out of life, right? That's the story that was kind of told and programmed into me. So I followed that path, and to make a long story very short, I basically got to that moment where I had spent over 5 years trying to achieve, and I got to the highest pay grade that I possibly could. I had achieved everything that I sought out to do at that point. And I remember just looking up at my office roof, and I just knew, there's something so much greater out there. And in that moment, I decided to do things differently. I embarked on a transformational, I didn't know it at the time, but it ended up being a very transformational journey to Thailand and eventually across the world. And yeah, that was kind of where I feel like my life really started. And that happened on my 7th birthday. And it's been a beautiful journey ever since. And I haven't looked back. Yeah. And now going on that journey in Thailand led me to quit my job, sell everything, and just kind of reinvent myself from the inside out. And yeah, this is now what we're bringing into Unlimited Health Collective and also Uni Intelligence. And it's such an honor to just be walking this path. And I'm excited to share with you all the stories and the insights and the wisdom that come with making those big decisions.
Wow. There's not a lot of people that do that, Logan, make that type of transition. So can you share with us a little bit about just a little bit of how long you were in Thailand and what your life was like compared with being in Alberta?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was quite the paradox to my traditional life. Just got off, the day before I went to Thailand, I just got off a 12-hour night shift. Being a power engineer, I was basically like Homer Simpson, think of it that way, except it wasn't a nuclear plant, it was a power plant. So I was a panel operator. And anyways, so I would work 12-hour night shifts. And conversely, when I went into Thailand, I started meditating for 12 to 13 hours a day. And it was a complete and utter shift. And really, that's where everything just kind of opened up to me. I'll share a little preface to me. As I was in the airport, I had said to myself for the first time in my life that I was focusing on my to-be list and not my to-do list. And my mom had given me a hug, wished me a good trip, and I mumbled that under my breath. And that's where everything really started to unfold. Yeah, the next part of that journey, I couldn't have predicted if I wanted to.
How long were you in Thailand?
Yeah, so I was in Thailand for 2 months. So it wasn't an incredibly long time, but it was very, very powerful and exactly what I needed.
And what took you to all those various countries? I think you said 30 plus countries you've been to.
Yeah. So I luckily when I was 19, I went to Europe and I spent, I think it was about 50, 55 days in Europe. And that really just ignited a travel bug in me. I had never really traveled much before that. You know, I went to Mexico and did the classic vacation resort style. And yeah, when I started backpacking, it just absolutely fell in love with it. And I had been to a couple countries in between that time. And then I had a major life shift, got out of a very long-term relationship, you know, had all of these kind of epiphanies about what I actually wanted in my life. This was the catalyst that kind of that got me there.
So when did you become a monk? Was that in Thailand or when you came back?
Yeah, so that was in Thailand. Everything just lined up for me. It was very interesting because again, I was focusing on my to-be list and not my to-do list. So what that meant for me was releasing control, not having everything scheduled out. I was very type A, to be honest, before all of this kind of happened. As soon as I let go of that control and I started allowing life to flow more naturally, I was able to connect with something greater, and it led me to the monastery 7 days into the experience, and it was yeah, I was very guided. As soon as I got into the monastery, it was quite profound. So I was immediately approached by a monk, and his name was Billy. And so it was interesting because when I was talking to Billy, he was very forward with me, and he started talking about ego and desire and mindfulness and all of these different teachings. And he said to me, he's like, "I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm talking to you so much, but I can't help but think that you're a brother from another lifetime." I was like, "Oh, interesting." Yeah, so I was like, I don't mind. Please continue. And so he made a motion of shaving his head. And because I had been taking all of the signs that I'd been getting, because I was actually listening, probably for the first time in my life, ironically, I just said to him, I said, "Billy, do you think I should shave my head?" And he says, yes. So 15 minutes into me being in the monastery, shaving my head behind where the monks congregate. And in that moment, after he was done shaving my head, he said to me, he said, "Eyebrows." And I was like, what? Like, this is not part of the deal. And so anyways, he shaved my eyebrows. So I am like Mr. Clean at this point. And he asked me in that moment if I wanted to become a monk. And I was like, no, I have a job. I still had my job at that point. You know, I had a lot of commitments. I had 2 rental properties. I had a bunch of investments, all of the things, right? All of the things in society. And so he said, well, we'll just think about it. And I was like, okay. So I spent the next 5 days and I dropped into meditation very deeply. I had been meditating at that point for about 4 or 5 years, like 20 minutes a day, and it was amazing. It definitely changed my life. But to spend like 7 to 13 hours a day meditating was really very life-changing, and it allowed me to just go deeper than I've ever been before. And yeah, ultimately 7 days into, well, 5 days after the 7 days, so 12 days in, I decided that I was going to quit my job and sell everything. And I called my boss that afternoon, and I just said, "Jennifer, I apologize, but I'm going to be resigning." And she said to me, "Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, Logan." So I was like, "Okay, well, I appreciate the confidence." I mean, when I told my family about it, that wasn't necessarily the reaction that they gave. They thought I was going a little crazy, but yeah, this is the story of how that kind of began. And
so you came back.
yes.
You said after a few months. And then what'd you do when you got back? Did you really swing back into being an advisor on leadership, or did you do other things first?
Yeah, love the question. So it was interesting. While I was meditating, I call it like getting downloads. I basically received the vision of what I was going to be doing moving forward in my life. And that revolved around basically elevating global consciousness. And so doing that through the now company Unlimited Health Collective and Uni Intelligence. So that was where things really started taking off, and yeah, just went straight into the swing of getting that underway. And yeah.
How so, you're an interesting guy because you're deep into spirituality. You have a professional background. So, can you help us understand how spirituality and science merge to help leaders?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's two things that are important to note with this. There's logic and then there's intuition. And I think that both are very needed. Even neuroscience, definitely there's so much science around the fact that these practices like mindfulness, breath work, emotional regulation, all of that kind of stuff is proven to be effective. And I think a big reason for that is because our bodies are the greatest intelligence systems that we've ever known. And science is just proving that as we speak. But, these are the same things that some of the greatest mystics and minds in the world have been using forever. So I always say that spirituality is just what science has yet to prove. And I think we're just recognizing it to be more and more relevant as time goes on.
Yeah, I think you have a point there. Of course, I started this podcast today I've talked to a number of individuals regarding spirituality, and we at Minutes with Mango, we like to really kind of explore culture, careers, and other things. And so this conversation is really fitting. From your perspective, how would you describe spirituality?
Spirituality is the core essence of who you really are. I think when we come into the world, we are conditioned from a very young age, and that conditioning can be good or bad. It's irrelevant. It's still a conditioning of some sort. And I see spirituality kind of like the core of the onion is your essence. That's your spirit. But throughout life, what we're doing is we're peeling back these not self themes, what we aren't in life. So we have to figure out what we aren't to know what we are. And to me, that knowing who you are on a deep, deep internal level is one of the greatest gifts that we're able to be given in this life. And that's something that can only be discovered when we seek it. Like, seek and you shall find.
Yeah.
And I think that's different for everyone. I don't think there's one rule or one way to get there.
Right.
Ultimately, I think that we all have unique paths and we need to honor them and in whatever way feels most aligned for us.
You've done a lot of meditation work based on what you've been talking about. How would you advise someone who's maybe never meditated before or has been thinking about it? How would you advise them on how to meditate or what they should do to start to meditate?
Well, that's a beautiful question, Johnny, and I get that so often. I'll preface it with this. I think lots of people feel like it's such a big task to take on. To sit for 10 minutes in meditation feels daunting when we've spent our whole lives not doing that. And it is the exact opposite of what we're told to do in life. And so that's why we've created Uni Intelligence. So Uni Intelligence, as soon as you enter into the app, it automatically helps you connect to your breath. And so it's just a 15-second exercise. It also helps with your daily habits and routine. So coming back into Uni Intelligence every day is definitely the best way to get started with it. Because if you're not connected with your breath, then you're not connected to your life. And I can say that is true in my life. And so we're creating call it a sacred space or a safe space for people to come and reduce the noise in their life so that they can really step into who they're meant to become. And that is automated into Uni and into the interactions that...
So, yeah, I was going to ask you about Uni Intelligence. Can you expand on that a little bit more about what you're really doing with this concept of Uni Intelligence? I know you mentioned the app, but tell us, kind of expand on that about Uni Intelligence.
Yeah, I'd love to. So Uni Intelligence is like your personal mirror and guide. So it's an AI-powered, soul-aligned tool to help people make better decisions throughout their day-to-day life. Basically, the three things that we really do differently than any other app on the market is we help people establish daily routines so that they can find their unique rhythm in life. And we do that with AI guided awareness tools in under 10 minutes a day. So it helps you get connected. It helps you set your intention on what you're wanting out of your life. It's like, think of it like you would never get into your vehicle without knowing where your destination is. Yet we go through our day with no intention of what we're actually wanting to experience. So sometimes we just drive around in circles. And this app is developed to help ensure that you actually are doing the things that you want to do in your life.
Have you released that app yet, or is it still in development?
Yeah, so depending on when this podcast is released, it will be out to public on September 1st. So we're calling it the first wave. I would say that our community is really the thing that drives what we're doing forward. Like our mantra or our core values are really about being heart-centered, growth-minded, and community-focused. And that's exactly what you're going to get when you come into the app. The daily habits are just one portion of it. The second portion is that people can receive the personalized support that they want. We want to shift the narrative around support being a weakness and help people understand that it's actually the greatest strength. And it takes somebody really strong to ask for help. And I'll say in my life, especially within this last year, I've been very humbled to the fact that everyone will need help at some points in their life. And there's no shame and no guilt in that. It's just a part of why we're human, because we all need to remind each other of why we're actually here.
So you're still a practicing monk, correct?
Actually, so when I left the monastery, which the last 5 days and nights I actually spent in a cave all by myself, and it was a profound experience. As soon as I got out, an hour later, I disrobed as a monk and I went on my way. And being a monk, there's a lot of, I guess, responsibilities that you take on. For instance, like there's many things, and I wasn't going to be in the monastic life anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
I knew when I became a monk, one of the main things that I had brought up was, I know that this is not a lifelong thing for me. I know that there's a time piece to this. And they said, that's completely fine. We would still love to have you join as a monk. So yeah, that's what I did.
So you're taking, just so I understand, you're taking away from what you gained by being a monk in the process, and now have come back and you're applying that to more what I would call, for any better word, corporate practicality, helping organizations based on what you've learned.
Yes, exactly. The way I see it is that, well, when you look at the word corporation, the first 5 letters of the word, or 4 letters, corp, which means dead body, corpse, right? Dead body, corpse. And
interesting.
Yeah, which in my experience, even though I worked for a fantastic company, the pay was excellent, great vacation, all of these benefits, like by every measure, I was living the dream according to what the American dream is, right? And it's not what it's cracked up to be. And even having, the people I worked with were fantastic, all of the things, right? All of the things, it was still a place that people would go, they would put on a mask, metaphorically speaking, and there was no life in it. And I deeply recognize, and also our team deeply recognizes, that when people are not happy and healthy, there's no way that they can be productive and truly be innovative because they're not engaged. And so we want to reverse that narrative and actually create joy places where people come to thrive in their life, not just survive.
Yeah, I've over the years been in many corporate situations, and I understand what you're saying, that there's a lot of unhappy people out there that have kind of gotten what I would call stuck. Maybe they needed income, maybe they thought that they were helping somebody, or maybe not thinking of others, not themselves, and got themselves into this kind of, for any better word, rat race. It's like the squirrel on the wheel. And it's once you get going, it's hard to get off. So I can relate to what you're saying. So I think your app's going to be really helpful to people to take the time out of their life to really, through meditation, to be able to bring themselves back to who they are and to be, as you say. So that's pretty interesting. How do you guide companies from being burned out to breakthrough? What's your process for that? How's that going to work?
Yeah, no, I love the question. So we're actually accepting applications for companies to start working with us. This has been a 3.5 year process, Johnny, to get to where we are today. We currently have 30 members on our team, 15 of which are in dedicated roles to ensure that this rolls out in the way that we know it's going to. And it's been a fantastic process. But to answer your question, so burnout in general, I think it's important to, recognize like what gets us into burnt out states. So for me, that's often a symptom of misalignment between values, vision, and daily actions. So that's what we are helping go into corporations by everybody having uni intelligence as part of their daily routine. We're actually helping them come back to themselves, and therefore they're going to essentially be able to engage on a higher level within the corporation. So we're not just going to come into the company and provide this app. We're actually going to provide monthly calls with these companies where they get a full spectrum experience to understand that, this isn't just another corporate wellness program. I had many of those rolled out in my companies. They had great intentions, but they were lacking in so many ways. And people, they honestly thought it was a joke. And it kind of was, to be honest with you. So we bring back the humanness into the workplace, and we have some really incredible live calls every month, as well as helping engage members, employees, into our processes and help them align their daily habits so that they're able to be more innovative, more creative, and like from a scientific perspective, be more regulated in their nervous system. And that ultimately ripples out into their culture, and that ripples into their return on investment, which is important for corporations. So it's a win for the employees because they're given a tool that is incredibly helpful for their personal lives, because we say that your personal wellness is your professional wellness. If somebody's struggling personally, they're struggling professionally, and vice versa. They're not different from one another.
But this brings to mind, during my corporate life, I was recruited to a company and I interviewed with them for quite a while. I mean, it was, I don't know, 3 or 4 trips across the country to meet with this company. And each time I would interview with more and more people within the company. So I'd gone through the whole gamut. Every employee that would have been working for me, people I'd be working for, the founder of the company. I interviewed with everybody. And the last interview I had was with the founder of the company, and which was over dinner. And the head of HR came to me and said, even though you've talked to 30 people, the real spear is the founder of the company. You got to get through him to get here. I said, yeah, I understand that. So we went to dinner, had a great dinner. And he knew I knew his industry very well. And so the next morning I was scheduled back to their corporate office, and I was scheduled to meet with a few more people. And the HR person came up to me with these plane tickets and said, you have to be at this particular city by a certain time. And I said, well, who's there? He said, well, one of our corporate psychologists would like to meet you. And I went, whoa, okay. And so I jumped on a plane and went and met this person, and which was a long process. And we didn't get done the same day. So the next morning, he met me early in the morning because I had to get going. I had to get to Chicago for something. And I told him the night before, I said, listen, you got to, I have to be on an airplane at 9 o'clock in the morning. He says, well, can I come to your hotel room at 5 a.m.? And I said, yeah. He says, well, I'll bring the donuts, some coffee, and we'll finish up. And I said, great. So I'm going, man, this is really weird. So he's interviewing me that morning, and I finally remember looking out the window, and I'm thinking, as he's asking me questions, what's this all about? And I finally stopped the conversation. I said, what is going on here? What do you want to really know? And he says, it's all about values with this company. They want to be sure that your values match their values. And I was really struck by that because in all of my career, had no one ever wanted to, in all the interviews and all the different places I've been, I never had anybody who expressed an interest in my values. Now, my values would match with their corporate values. And it turned into a wonderful experience. And I did go to work there, and I was there for many years. And so I can really relate to you're talking about values. I think many companies miss that. They think in terms more of production rather than values.
Yeah, I think you absolutely nailed that, Johnny. And that is exactly it. Profits are a byproduct of treating people really well. And when you really see someone and you really listen to them, it automatically makes them want to be successful in whatever venture that you're doing with them, whether it's an employee or a business partner. It's such a superpower that many people totally they look over it like it's nothing. But at the foundation of it, if somebody is truly being seen and heard and respected, they're going to be so committed to the cause because it will be in alignment, it will be in resonance, and it's inevitably going to be successful. But if it's built off of the idea to make money, then it's doomed for failure. Like if you plant a weed, you're going to get a weed. If you plant an apple tree, you're going to get an apple tree. You still have to water and nurture them. Like you're going to spend the same time watering the weed. So you may as well just start with an apple tree.
It's a good point. So, Logan, how do you envision a future where work, life, and spirit are no longer separate? Because that's where I hear you going in all this.
Yeah, no, I love the question. I think firstly, it starts with myself. I'm embodying that currently in my own life. This is not work to me. This is me, right? This is who I came here to be. This is what I want to be doing. I haven't received a paycheck in 3.5 years. And the point of me saying that is because I know that will come. But the truth is the foundation needs to be built strong and solid. And that's more important to me. I will work for free forever if I have to, as long as I can support myself to make that happen. To make it happen, because you must be able to see it in your mind before you can have it in your hands. And this was clearly guided for me and for everyone who's been a part of it actively. And we're just starting to have that come to fruition right now.
So tell me, we're going to be wrapping up in a few minutes. How does somebody find you? I mean, someone who's listening to this now, obviously there's going to be the Uni app, but it sounds like you're offering more than the Uni app. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We have an incredible team, and truly, so Uni is the gateway. That is how we're explaining it. Uni is the gateway. Unlimited Health Collective, which is the team it's the team for your team. Okay, so we hold the vision for the world that everyone has their own empowerment team. And this came from the fact that I didn't receive the support and the guidance that I was looking for growing up. And I just think about how my life would have benefited so much more if I had that. So we have a personalized team of vetted wellness professionals. So anything from transformational coaches, non-clinical therapists, wellness specialists of all modalities. We're bringing these superpower members together who are heart-centered, growth-minded, and community-focused to support on a higher level. Uni is the gateway. It's great. However, if you want to take your life to the next level, it starts with working with somebody who's really aligned with your best intentions. And so that's what we're providing on a deeper level.
So how does one find the Unlimited Health Collective?
Yeah, so we have our website, uniintelligence.ai, and that will be released here very shortly. We're just ramping up marketing right now as we speak. And you can find the app on the App Store, Uni Intelligence. That will be released September 1st is our go live date. So if everything aligns, that's when we'll be available. And yeah, this is just the initial MVP, but it's already an incredible app. And yeah, it's only going to get better from here. So regardless of when people are listening to this, I highly, highly recommend checking it out.
Okay, very good. Very good. All right, so that's the best way to, so uniintelligence.ai.
Yep, that's correct.
That's how they can find you and can find that app after September 1st.
Yes. Yes,
Very
we
good.
also have our Instagram, Unlimited Health Collective. Again, we haven't started the marketing on it yet.
Yeah.
And we have 4 people that are on that. So yeah, that'll be a great place. We have live events coming up, lots of live events, incredibly empowering, interactive events. So you're not just passively sitting there, you're actually involved. And that's the biggest thing I want to share with your audience, Johnny. And I just want to thank you again for having me, because I think we all want to be a part of something greater than ourselves. And this is truly an opportunity to do that. And so we do invite those who feel like there's more to life. We invite them to come experience that with us.
Okay. All right. Well, good. Do you have a website? There's no website, right?
Yes, uniintelligence.ai. That's the website to reach.
Okay, that's the website. Okay, I didn't know. Okay, and so then they can find the app through there, and then of course it'll be on the app stores when it's all ready and all that stuff.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Logan, I really appreciate you joining us today. You kind of our little series on spirituality, you've kind of tied it all back together to how somebody in the corporate world can use spirit to their advantage.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you.
Yeah. You have been listening to Minutes with Mango, Life in Motion. Subscribe to hear a new and unique guest each week as they comment on their life's journey and share experiences with lifestyle, culture, and career. You can always find us at minuteswithmango.com.